Hello everyone, today I'm taking a look at Spider-Man, specifically for the N64. This is the original game that kind of started the mainstream series that would be very much associated with Sony and PlayStation. But the first one always kind of held up in my memory, and a lot of people found it to be very fond of the game. And so going back to it after all these years, it was just interesting to see what is it actually like all these years later, removed from the expectations and novelty of the time. And honestly, it's a pretty solid game with an admittedly kind of confusing control scheme. The story is really not anything to write home about. You are Spider-Man, and you basically go through a series of levels, but it's almost like mini levels where you have one objective, like a chase or a beat 'em up or a puzzle or something, or a combination of those three. And in the game itself, besides the fact that it controls very well as just a normal platformer, but all the basic combat and combos are very much the same, rudimentary, and very basic and simple to follow. So it's pretty simple. It's A to jump. B, strangely, make sure that you zip up to the ceiling if there is one above you. Down on the C button does punching, left does kicking, and up does web shooting, and right does nothing. If you hold down Z, you'll be able to focus in and aim around the environments for a specific place to shoot your web. And R allows you to basically swing from any shot web that allows you to kind of go building or wherever you're going through the environment. On that point, it's a really interesting mechanic how you actually swing the web, because all the levels are fairly linear. The web, it kind of functions at exactly the same places as it would anywhere else to make sure you always reach your destination. So it's not like, okay, I'm going to swing here, I'm going to swing fast and overshoot this building. It's like, no, it's going to bring you to almost a designated location. But the one thing that I think stuck out about this game to me, at least in my mind, as to why it's very well remembered and why it works very well, is that it feels like all of the actions you take in the game feel intentional. There's never like a misinput or something didn't have the exact effect that you wanted to, like you jumped to the right place, you went to the right place, etc. And that stayed consistent throughout the whole game. And again, it's very simple. The rudimentary story is told through these comic book style cutscenes, in which essentially you get a bit of flavor text and characters. And across the story, it's very rudimentary, but you do fight every major Spider-Man villain, from Rhino, Mysterio, Doc Ock, Venom, Carnage. I really do remember the Carnage fight as a kid. That was like a big thing to me, at least, as to trying to beat that over and over and over again and never quite getting it. So finally coming back to it now and finally beating it, kind of a cool experience. But yeah, the story is not much. Essentially, there's symbiotes that have invaded, and so that's halfway through the story, and just like very much exposition, just like, oh, here's Spider-Man, here's Black Cat, who's your main kind of support, and you just kind of go from level to level. And it's really interesting too how well this game holds up, because yes, there are a few cutscenes here and there, but they're so short and so small, and all the levels are kind of designed around one specific mechanic. It almost feels like a series of different tutorials, but the game is so fast-paced and it's so well made that you don't really realize it. Another thing is actually the OST, the music, shout out to Tommy Tallarico, is just really good overall, and it's not exactly thematic. It doesn't have a huge melody to it, but it's just composed very well. Like there are some tracks in here where it's rock and techno, and it does not feel like a Spider-Man game at all. It just feels like a really cool quality game, and I think the OST actually does a lot of heavy lifting, especially for some of the boss fights. But yeah, overall, it's just a very rudimentary, simple, but very well made game. I did find it interesting that one of the main sort of new novel things in this game, in terms of characters, is they did a cross between the symbiotes and Doctor Octagon, and so basically he's this like mesh thing, which is the final boss, which is just a runaway final thing. And so at the end of the game, you have the Doctor Doc Ock fight, then you have a Carnage fight, I think, yeah, after that. And then you have this giant runaway segment where you have to run out of the base before it explodes, and then it all kind of. So, yeah, in terms of superhero games, I found this to be actually pretty above decent. Everything that I did in the game felt correct. I think another thing about the game, aside from the OST and the controls, is that just the pacing of it just felt very fast. Like, hey, this is happening, and then now this is happening, and you just kind of go with it and kind of go with the flow. There are collectibles in this game, but I really got only a few of them. I didn't even realize they were collectibles. I guess they're on different skyscrapers and whatnot that allow you to unlock different costumes for Spider-Man. But yeah, it's just kind of a weird gem that I would say still holds up. It's very simple, very rudimentary, and also another thing that I was saying about it is not only is it fast paced, but it's also a super short game, like 4 or 5 hours maybe. And again, I just remember this era of gaming where you just had so much quality compressed into a short time frame, where like a new game came out and it's like, hey, we're gonna go play the new game, and it'll last maybe a day, maybe an afternoon, maybe two, and it'd be like, cool, we experienced that, we had like an event or whatever, and then we just move on, rather than these 100-hour games that no one has time for. Yeah, I don't know, I think it was really cool, and I enjoyed it. That's it. So